got your boy Agent Albatross here behind the scenes today. But we got the CU boys as usual. We have Spiggs 18 or Anthony. We have Alphadean or just simply Dean. And Dean, what are we doing here tonight?
Well, normal night. We're gonna have a nice talk with a nice guest. Real quick, a quick disclaimer. What I'm about to tell you about her is you can all find that same information right up on the Kickstarter page. But Jess Pendley lives and breathes tabletop RPGs and is a very proud that she managed to trick people into letting her obsess over them about her career. So, with that being said, beyond just acting as Underground Oracle's managing editor, Jess takes on the duties of head writer, project director, and UO community manager. And outside of her work on the Underground Oracle product, she's done writing and design work for Dwarven Forge, Crucible Magazine projects, and co-led Dark Reflections on the DM's Guild. And is a community manager for the Rising Tide tabletop RPG community. Welcome, 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 Jess.
Awesome. So stoked to be here. Crazy stoked.
We're happy to have you. Welcome, Jess. Welcome to the CU.
Yeah.
You wear a ton of hats according to your own bio. we actually, I was going to write a bio, but then I was like, Jess did an awesome job on her own bio, so I just used that. But yeah, so tell our audience who may not know you, a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit of your experience in tabletop RPGs.
Yeah, I'm like Jess Pendley, at Jess Pendley on all the socials. I was one half of Underground Oracle Publishing, but my partner Keith and I just onboarded Caleb Baines as our general manager. So now we are a awesome crew of 3 people. So I am the co-owner and editorial manager of Underground Oracle Publishing. Primarily in the past, we used to do 5e supplement work. We've been doing that for the last few years, met a ton of amazing people doing it. But we've since transitioned into the Cypher community. And so now we're creating Cypher products, which we're super jazzed about, meeting a ton of really supportive, awesome new folks. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. That's literally me just all together, actually. That's all I focus on all day long is this. So
that's awesome. You hired a third person so we could say, hey, we found you guys when you were on the rise to being a major gaming company.
Yeah, that's true. A few years from now, you're going to be like, we got Jess before anybody knew who the fuck she was. And that's a pretty big deal.
That's awesome. And everyone that knows me, I'm going to take credit for all of that.
He will. And we're going to stand behind him and go, yes, yes. No, but you're living the dream, Jess. That's awesome. I mean, a lot of us have aspirations to move into that field too, to make it a living. But so, with that being said, Underground Oracle Publishing has a pretty big catalog of RPG products on drive-through. You've done stuff for DM's Guild, for 5e. Now you guys seem to be focused on Cypher. What made you want to work on Cypher system projects in general?
Well, I've been interested in Cypher for, a couple of years, just like reading. I didn't get a lot of opportunity to do anything with it, but I really liked the system. And I mean, coming from a D&D background, everybody knows who Monty Cook is and who Sean Reynolds is and things like that. So, I mean, I already knew their work. And so it was easy to kind of follow them around and see what they were doing. But I think the big draw for us as creators to Cypher is just that it's a very narrative first system. And that's how we like to create. Our big thing was always we're lore first producers of supplements, and you can do that in 5e. And we did do that, that made a lot of stuff that we're really proud of, but it was not always designed with that in mind. The system itself, you kind of had to do your own work for that. But with Cypher, there's a lot of support in the actual bones and the actual of the setting or the system, and so it made it easy for us to kind of transition and keep the core of how we like to create our worlds and our supplements.
Before I ask my next question though, what if any, what MCG Cypher System settings have you played or found interesting?
I haven't actually. It's really weird, but I've got all the genre books that are out, the white books, which I love. That's and it might be because I'm a creator. Even when we did D&D, I never I read the Forgotten Realms like source books and stuff like that, but we never played in anything but our own settings. It really has never mattered what TTRPG system we were playing. We were always in our own worlds. We didn't give a fuck what anyone else was doing. It was more like,
baby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is why we started creating in the first place. Cause we're like, this shit's pretty rad. Other people might like it too. But, so with Cypher, it was like, I got the core book and it kind of blew my mind because to me, I was like, this is just begging for people to create for this system. You know what I mean? Like it's a toolbox. It's exactly what it is. They're telling you how to create your worlds into these specific genres. They're telling you how to make your own foci. It is a cookbook to make shit. And I was like, I hadn't actually seen a lot of mainstream TTRPGs doing that kind of thing. So I was blown away. But they didn't at the time have like a third-party license or anything. And I wasn't, because we were third-party publishers, we weren't interested in getting into the community content program, even though it was an amazing program, it just wasn't for us. It's the same reason why we didn't join the DMs Guild with most of our products. We just like left them on drive-through. But then when they brought out that third-party license, I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. In the future, we should start converting, because we had these setting plans already, but they were kind of on the back burner. I was like, we'll have to start converting to Cypher. I was super excited about it. And then all that bonkers OGL stuff happened. And I was like, oh, actually, we're just going to go to Cypher full time. But, but yeah, that's what I love about it. So I haven't actually played in any of the settings. I've read Shotguns and Sorcery, and I've looked through some Numenera, the original Numenera book, things like that. But it was really just like the genre books and the core book that really like got me like revved up. But that's because I like playing in my own worlds. That's like our biggest thing.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir. Everything you said is pretty much how we feel about most gaming books. So I totally understand your point on that. Speaking of Cypher System, you currently have an already fully funded project called Harrow, the Blighted Plane. It's described as high fantasy, post-apocalyptic meets crystal punk, which sounds freaking awesome. Can you explain the setting a little further and what exactly is crystal punk?
Yes, I absolutely will. And actually, the crystal punk question is one that I've been getting a lot. I did not realize that it was not as widely known subgenre as I thought it was. So it's a fantasy subgenre like steampunk or something, but you just like you replace the steams and gears with like crystals and their inherent energy. So that's kind of what's driving all the fantastical qualities of the setting. There's this crystal and magic that's around. But yeah, the world of Harrow takes place in like a post-apocalyptic fantasy world. But it's very bright and optimistic. So these are people that they're living in the aftermath of this great cataclysm caused by these terribly, domineering people that controlled the entire planet they're on, essentially. And when they fell and the world went to shit, they just kind of picked themselves up and supported each other and decided, you know what, our world's not what it was, but we're free and we're able to do what we want to do. And so let's go out and let's, make our claim on this new world. And so that's what they're doing. And so you come into Harrow a few hundred years after the cataclysm. So everything's still, raw and new, and there's a lot of things still settling into place. And because the world of Harrow is inherently always changing and always in flux as a result of this cataclysm. So there's like this giant sea of sand that everybody has to like travel across to get to the different nations and to get to these different oases and things like that. And there's these like very alien landscapes where like the dominant plant life on the plains, like these varieties of like fungus, like mushrooms and things like that. So you're going through these massive mushroom jungles and you're fighting these crystal blighted creatures, and you're returning to your nation with all these like treasures. And it's just, it's a setting that is made to like, we describe it as Treasure Planet meets Water World, because those are, we took our favorite vibes from that and then put it into this amazing fantasy gumbo. And it's just a super fun world to explore that is always able to change how the GM wants it to. So even though we don't have like an Arctic area in Harrow and, in the book, there's more than enough for you to go, oh, actually, this weird, mysterious island rose from the water sands. And now there is this place that, because of this lost piece of Qatari technology or something, is a frozen wasteland. And there's all these strange creatures there that no one recognizes from Harrow. So it's a place that constantly has the ability to provide really fucking cool new things for people to explore and see.
I mean, it's really cool because I don't think there's anything like it in currently in the Cypher System catalog. So it's, you guys are going to scratch an itch that I don't think is currently out there. So that's awesome.
That's awesome.
And you sort of kind of answer this, but where did the original idea come from?
All of our ideas always come from we role play constantly. That's our drug of choice is role playing. I would die at the table if Keith wasn't like, I got to stop running this game. Like I love it so much. And so, before we were creating content for other people to enjoy, we were just creating it for our own worlds at the table. And so all these settings that we have in one form or another been around for like 15 years, we've just been developing them and adding to them and things like that. So Harrow, like I have a piece of notebook paper that has like this little scribble of like, I'm like, maybe there's a sand lake and there's these different things and stuff. And it's like old. And eventually that's what it ended up becoming Harrow that we have out today. So it's super awesome. But all of them, it's just from constant storytelling and constant like going back and forth. And then, we have all this stuff, and then we onboarded Kayla, and Kayla's put in a bunch of her own stuff into it as well, and like been like, oh, you guys have this rad idea, how about this creature, or how about this equipment, or things like that. So it's just something that's been developing for a really long time, and now it's got kind of, we've put a new shine on it, and then also we've got new people working in it, so it's really, really cool.
No, that sounds awesome.
Sounds great. Now, I have a question for you about the Kickstarter, but just kind of an add on what you just said. Are you going to kind of open that setting up for, like, say, other freelancers out there who might want to write some stuff for it? Or
we have plans to create a program for people to be able to work in our settings, especially since if you go to our Patreon, you can see kind of our publication schedule, and you can see kind of like what our plans were after we made the OGL transition. So we plan on releasing multiple worlds. So we definitely have a lot of sandboxes for people to play in, and we definitely want people to be able to do that, either to freelance for us once we have the funds to be able to do that, or create some sort of community content program. So that is definitely a plan, but I would say optimistically that's probably like a late 2024 plan at this point, rather than something earlier than that.
I'm pretty sure Al has all your links rotating on the what you call it, Twitch chat.
Oh, right.
Plus, we'll have everything on YouTube as well the following day when it goes up.
Awesome, thank you.
So my question, the actual question is, so since Harrow is fully funded, you still have 23 days to go. That's awesome. So congratulations there.
Thank you.
But can you tell us a little bit about the stretch goals and pledge levels? And it also seems you guys have early access materials as well.
Yes. So the way that, going back to it, the way that our publishing model works is through Patreon. So we released Harrow, the quick start version of Harrow, several months ago to our patrons. And then we built on that over the last few months until it widened out to, I believe the last one was 88 pages. And then there's a short and a full adventure that you would get depending on which tier you were at. That turns into what becomes the early access version that we can provide people who have pledged to the Kickstarter. So when you pledge to that Kickstarter, the moment that it wraps, you get the early access version of Harrow so that you can start playing in it later right off the bat. So that's like the 88-page book that's got like the species, the core rules if you need them, sand ships, creatures, all that jazz, ciphers, artifacts. And then there's also a full cipher short, and then there's a set in Harrow. And then there's also a full adventure that you can use to play. And it's an amazing introductory adventure to like navigate the primary city of Harrow's, a city called the Mound. And it's named because it's this like towering city stacked on top of itself around this massive stone spire. And it's these people that have made like the city out of all these reclaimed materials. And it's super vibrant and bustling all the time. And it's where most people do their launches out into the water sands to go like gather from these oases and these ruins and things like that. So that adventure that's in the early access and that our $8 patrons already had access to basically takes you through like, what is it like to operate one of these scrap houses is what they're called in the Mound, but it's like an independent adventuring crew. Basically, you're a gatherer that goes out and grabs these resources and brings them back, whether it's treasure or things for infrastructure or whatever. So the adventure walks you through like the different areas of the Mound, the different districts, and things that might happen to you as you're starting this scrap house, like whether that's messing around with rival scrap houses, or whether it's like infiltrating this risen rune that just came out before it falls back into the depths of the water sands, or any of these things. So it's very cool. That's all in the early access. But I forgot the other fucking part to your question. I'm sorry.
Just tell us a little bit if you have any stretch goals out.
Yes. So we are fully funded, which is awesome. That means that the core book will automatically come with, your 20 creatures, tons of ciphers, artifacts, etc. 2 Cypher shorts and a full adventure. We have stretch goals set up to include more art, because that's always very expensive. We have stretch goals for more creatures, more ciphers. The ultimate one is a whole full adventure, like another adventure to put in the book as well. Then we have cool things lined up outside of that if we get to that. Also, Roll20 conversion is one of the stretch goals. Digital players guides, so just removing the player relevant materials out of the core book and kind of having a pack of PDFs that a GM can give out to their players so that they have those and it's a little less, unwieldy. So that's one of the stretch goals. So there's a lot of cool stuff on the line there that we could get to in the next 20 days. So.
Well, I'm definitely backing right out for this, and I'm telling you right now, I want to back at the producer level because I just want to say I produced this show. Yeah, it's a great guy. I produced it.
Oh, producers, no big deal. Whatever. Again, in a few years. In a few years, that's going to make you look like a genius.
That's what I'm banking for.
Yeah. I'm a great investment, I promise.
Guys in chat, absolutely keep the questions coming. We definitely going to ask Jess as many questions as we can, but could you please preface it with the word question so Al knows that he could cut and clip it, because we have it on a separate document, so we won't lose your question in chat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, the producer level looks nice. I looked at the producer level.
You could back at several different levels. You could back at just the PDF. You could back at the book, correct? Or you could back at a producer level. And
the NPC level is gone.
It is, but I'll premiere it here. We hadn't talked about it anywhere else yet, but once we hit that first stretch goal, we're going to unlock another 5 of those NPC tiers as well. So you can become a permanent part of Harrow if you want to. But yeah, that includes art and everything.
Now, see, now you're talking my language. That's the creative writer guy in me.
Yeah.
Speaking of being creative and designing, right? Now that you guys are designing solely for Cypher System, did you feel like you had to change your mindset working for Cypher as opposed to other systems like 5e?
Honestly, no. That was the appeal of it was funny. It was less of a shift changing our mindset to work with Cypher than it was getting into 5th edition originally. And again, it's just because Cypher it really does complement our style of creation. We're lore first creators. We're very much like how everything that we do, whether it's an item or a creature or something, it's tied to like 50 different pieces of lore that no one else might ever see, but we know it's there. So it's very important to us to make sure that story's there and it's layered and everything feels real and grounded, and like tomorrow you could step into Harrow and it would feel incredibly fucking real, because that's the way that we like to play at the table. It's just that real full immersion experience. And so we create to kind of provide that to other people. We try to make it as easy as possible. So we didn't really have to shift our mindset at all creating for Cypher. Running for Cypher, I would say a little bit, only because the player intrusion thing was not something that I was really ever used to. As a player or as a DM, like I was always like, and as much as I love designing, I like to be a forever player as much as I can. I make Keith do all. Keith is the forever GM for all the UO house games, for all the playtest games that we do. He's the one that runs the games. And I'm completely comfortable with, the thought of me as the player really doing anything to guide the story other than my role playing never even occurred to me. And I knew there were other systems that did that, like things like that. But it was never really something that we employed. So I would say the only thing that I kind of had to shift my mindset for was that player intrusion aspect, because I was like, oh, that gives the people around the table a lot more power, But I think it's that's one way to look at it. But the other way is that it makes it a truly collaborative play experience in that way. So I think it's cool, and it opens up some interesting doors that I hadn't really considered before.
Yeah, narrative control, giving up narrative control as a GM, especially if you come from older systems or been gaming for a long time.
Yeah,
it's a concept that it's kind of hard to grasp.
It's tough, yeah. Even if I'm getting some of that control, like even as the player, I'm like, I don't know if I like that. I don't want these other players making decisions.
control is weird.
Keith answered the question in the chat, which is kind of fun. He says, not sure what Jess was saying, but very hard technically, very hard financially, and super rewarding creatively.
Oh, well, that's not a mindset thing. That's a production thing. Yeah. So it's just, you gain a lot of traction in one community, and then it's kind of like, we had to make a very abrupt change. Keith does this full time, which is amazing. I have a full-time day job, and then I do this full-time after hours with Keith. So we definitely invested too much in this to let it go. We definitely knew that we still weren't done with it. And one day I would like to also be full-time doing this, So when all the 5e stuff was happening, we had to make a lot of tough choices. And we knew that none of those choices were going to be that we stopped. That's the one thing that we didn't know. We were going to keep going forward.
And let's also keep it real, Jess. You're going from the most popular system, which harbors 99.9% of the audience, to us guys in the corner over here.
Well, brass tacks. Yeah, the D&D movie just came out. There's a reason for that. You know what I mean? So it's like, that being said, I love the Cypher system, and the community that we have found here has been, honestly, yes, it's been difficult, financially and things like that. Like our first Kickstarter, I was kind of laughing about it earlier. It was for loved the book that we put out. It was for a splat book for, which nobody uses that term anymore. So I'm dating myself, but it was
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Horror supplements and stuff for 5e Under the Harvest Moons. Beautiful book. Very well put together by Chris Hopper. He's doing the layout for our Harrow as well. So I'm very excited about that. Amazing book, but it funded like that. And then we hit, before we were done, we had a 14-day Kickstarter, and we got to almost 14K pretty quickly. And that was as relatively unknown people, but it was because you had that 5e, everybody's wanting to take a chance on 5e kind of. So it is a little more difficult getting a foothold in Cypher. But that being said, the people that we have met, like on your Discord, on the Facebook groups, on Reddit, for fuck's sake, I stay away from Reddit because Reddit is mostly a dumpster fire. So I was always very hesitant to do anything on Reddit, and I was like, we gotta try to meet some new people. So I was like, I posted our newsletter, and we have a free newsletter for Underground Oracle Publishing, and we release these things through it called Cypher Boosters, is what we call them, and it's basically like it's free to the public. And it's like a pack of NPCs that you can use, or a pack of ciphers, or a pack of, different things like that. So it's essentially like the cards that people produce, but in PDF form. So I was like, oh, I'm providing something. It's not like I'm asking for anything really, So I posted there, and everybody was so nice. It was bananas. And everybody's been so nice and so welcoming. And I remember when we were making our transition, I had a question about making Cypher shorts because they weren't a part of the SRD yet. But I wanted to make them really badly because I loved them. I thought the concept was brilliant. Great way to spin up a one shot or, add something to a campaign even. I loved it, but it wasn't a part of the SRD. So I wrote Charles Ryan actually, and I was like, hey, this isn't a part of the SRD, but is it okay if I reference it, if I link back or whatever? And he ended up emailing me back, which I did not expect in a million fucking years. Yeah. And he was like, oh yeah, definitely. Don't worry about it. We'll just add it to the SRD. And I was like, what? It blew my mind. And they included it in the SRD update. And I was like, these people are fucking amazing. I never in a million years would I have thought that I could do that with Dungeons and Dragons, or really with anyone, really. So it's definitely been tough. It's been a little bit of a struggle. But honestly, it's been so rewarding so far with the people that we've met and the community that we're part of. And if we're anything, me and Keith from the beginning said, we like to uplift the people around us, the other creators around us, the people around us. We like to try to be, those people, the hand up people, we don't want to be the crab bucket people. We want to be the people that help, and we've found a community full of people that, think like us for the most part. I've, knock on wood, I'm sure it'll happen, but I've yet to have really your classic negative D&D interaction in the Cypher community, which has just been refreshing.
Which is, it's funny you say that, Jess, because we talk about it all the time, but you're in the right place. You absolutely said it the best. MCG is a group of amazing people. 99% of the people around here who are into Cypher are amazing people, but every now and then you will find the ass goblin that wants to come along and try. We've actually had people, literally, it's funny, we've had people come on the server and try to, start an argument, get us amped up, and people just kill them with kindness. They eventually be like, I'm leaving, fuck you,
I hate this.
So it's a purpose. So you just did a mouthful.
It's funny you guys say that about the community. We actually met with Charles, Kate, and Tammy last week. To go over some stuff. And Charles had mentioned, no, I think it was Kate mentioned, oh, you guys, you have such a wonderful community. And I was like, it's not us, it's your guy. The way the company is structured, like you're magnets for nice people. Like, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, it's weird. And honestly, I was because I didn't really, again, I was coming blind into this community. And my friend Luna, she was like, hey, you got to try this, get on this Cypher Unlimited Discord, if you guys are going to be doing this, these guys are great, but I was so hesitant because, jumping into a massive Discord server and being like, hi, I'm a creator. That's not always like a super popular thing to do.
Don't ping me.
Yeah, exactly. No, never ping me. So I was super nervous. So I got on, I was kind of lurking a little bit. And then I think I pinged one of you. I did one of you guys. And I was like, hey, I just released this first thing of Cypher Shorts. Is there anywhere I could post that? If it's not okay, whatever. And I can't remember which one of you it was again, but it was you. Yeah. You're super fucking cool. Told me where to post. So I was like, awesome. I did it. And I expected to hear a bunch of people tear me apart. Nobody did. And it was so great, And it's funny because I've had some people from your server join the Underground Oracle Publishing server. And that, it's such a good mesh because we try to kind of cultivate the same kind of positive environment, where it's just like you come, you chill, you hang out, you talk about the things that you love to talk about. You might have a difference of opinion or whatever, but this is the place to kind of all hang out together and express, our love for what this is, our role-playing games. And we've had a lot of people come from your server and join ours, and there's been they just fit right in. It's been amazing. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Our ultimate goal was to create a place where, first of all, selfish reasons, for Cypher to shine, for Monica Games to shine. But, also for all these wonderful content creators that are developing for Cypher System, whether it's making games, doing live actual plays, doing, Twitch streams, we want to promote and help everyone as much as possible. And we have a small little community that, there's pretty much anyone that does anything social media wise on Cypher System. We want to reach out to them and help them and have them help us. It's like a little family. We
kind of like to think, if we could do it, the idea is to be the hub. We would like to be a one-stop hub where everybody comes. If you need something Cypher related, MCG related, stop by Cypher Unlimited, whether it's our Discord, our YouTube, and like Anthony said, that's the goal. And you guys are bringing down the house in spades, because what you're offering and what you're bringing to the table is so MCG, so Cypher, in flavor, which
hey, we got to it off
they
track.
like.
You want to ask the next question?
Oh yeah, let me get back to that question. So, this project, seems to be incorporating VTTs in it, big time. You have a pledge level for all material on Foundry. Do you plan to have it available for VTT? And how important do you feel like VTTs are to the future of gaming?
I am a pen and paper gal myself whenever I can do it. And up until a few years ago, I would have said, I'm never going to play online. And then I started selling online supplements, and that seemed like a really dumb fucking thing to say. I started out, we started playing because we were 5e. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but there's a VTT that's 5e specific called Shard Tabletop. And it's an amazing VTT. They actually changed my mind on VTTs because they're so fucking simple. And I would be, if they weren't 5e specific, I would be, telling everybody here, go jump on there and do it. You know what I mean? But if you're doing 5e, jump on there and do it. But Foundry VTT is what we're going for primarily for our Cypher stuff. Just because we've had so many, during our last Kickstarter, we had so many people ask us about Foundry. It became, apparent to us that was a big one. We have a Roll20 stretch reward for the core book as well. All the Cypher Shorts add-ons that you can get, like the collections that we have, all have Roll20 and Foundry VTT options. If there's one that people are interested in, feel free to ping me and let me know, and I'll, talk to the team, see if we can set that up as another stretch goal down the line. But yeah, I think VTTs are incredibly important. I think they're not going anywhere. I think it would be foolish to think that they are, really, even if I'm not one to constantly use them. Most people do the real playing online nowadays. I mean, most people aren't, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's at all, because we're talking to each other. We don't live within 20 minutes of each other. You know what I mean? So it's like, you guys seem rad. If I wanted to game with you, I would love to be able to, do that. And VTTs facilitate that. So I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. If anything, I think it's just going to become more of a thing for most systems. So I think it's really, really important. And I want as many people to be able to experience our awesome stuff as possible. You know what I mean? And so if that means converting it to a VTT so that they can then show it to the rest of their group, absolutely, I'm game to do it. If it's going to get you in our world moving around, then absolutely. But yeah, I think they're kind of, at this point, they've woven themselves into the community, and they're a part of it. That's just the way that it is. It's not going to be something that pulls back.
So I have an add-on to this question, and because you just said something when you were talking there. When are you going to come back and run the CU through a Harrow adventure, and we can do it live? Oh,
are we talking about that? Tell you what, if we hit that 30K stretch goal, I will run the Harrow adventure for the Cypher boys right here live. That's a fucking promise right there. Yeah, so
that's awesome. Yeah, you will definitely do it.
Yeah.
It's funny, just to go back to the VTT before I ask my next question. Yeah. It's actually amazing that I've spoken to so many people that they only experiences online. Like they've never chucked physical dice, which is crazy. So, they've never had the experience of throwing a dice. I know.
And it's weird. And I mean, I grew up crazy rural. And so I drove like an hour on Fridays to get to the nearest game store. And then, would play there. And that's where I started playing. And it was an amazing experience. And it was the way that I preferred to socialize and did socialize. But I mean, I didn't have the capability to drive an hour away most of my life. You know what I mean? So I just didn't get to fucking play. Yeah. Had I had, this environment that we have now, I would have opened me up to meeting and playing with a lot of really cool people. So yeah, it's strange that there are people that don't have that same tactile connection to the games that I do. Like, to me, when you talk about TTRPGs, tabletop role-playing games, I'm thinking, dice, filling the books,
munchies.
Yeah, munchies, knocking over a soda on your character sheet, christening it, the whole nine. That's it for me. But there are other people that it's like, oh, it's turning on Discord, a couple times a week with my friends and doing it this way. And that's the way they've always experienced it. And I think that's neat. I think it opens up a lot of people to be able to do something that I absolutely love. So I'm definitely not going to disparage it. It's definitely unique that we've come to this point now where there are so many people in the hobby that are like, yeah, I don't ever actually play in real life, basically. You know what I mean? So it's definitely interesting, but that's the way things are going. You know what I mean? We're pretty soon we're going to be like the niche people that are like, I only listen to music on records. I won't. I mean, that's what it's going to be like soon for people who are like, I got to have those dice in my hand. You're going to be the record guy. That's like, oh, that's cute and neat, but yeah, it's quaint. But yeah, so.
Yeah. And if you look at my dice collection, and you'll be like, yep, you're going to be the vintage old guy.
Yeah. I have a different set of dice for any character that I make. Any character that I make gets its own set of dice. And then that set of dice can't be used for another character. That's how bad I am, because I'm like, no, this has the essence of this character in it. It can't go to anybody else.
No, D, we are the vintage old guy.
Yeah. I'm a vintage old guy. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, you've already got a couple of Kickstarters, under your belt. So what have you learned from this process that you didn't know before kickstarting? And do you have any advice for our listeners that want to get into crowdfunding a role-playing game?
My biggest advice for crowdfunding a role-playing game would be to support crowdfunding campaigns. And that's not just because I have fucking one running. That'd be convenient. Yes, you want my tips? Sign up for my Kickstarter. No, it's honestly, I learned so much just watching people. I've supported a shit ton of Kickstarters that went off to varying degrees of success. And I learned something from every successful one, every failed one, doesn't matter, you know? So not only are you helping the creator by throwing them that, you know, $10, $15, $20 or whatever, you're getting those updates, you're seeing what they're doing. You're being able to see comments that are coming in. You're being able to see what they do right, what they do wrong, what people respond to. That's all a learning experience. So yeah, you're paying for awesome role-playing stuff that you're going to read and you're going to learn from that as well, I'm sure. And you're going to experience new things that you might not, you know, have, but you're also going to be teaching yourself. You're homeschooling yourself on how to run a crowdfunding campaign. Even the ones that have failed that I pledged money to that, you know, didn't fail, but the person just never completed what they said they were going to do, I still learned from it. So I'm not, you know, I'm not bitter grapes about that. I'm like, okay, I know what to do from the situation, what not to do from the situation. I know how to handle failure with grace if I have to. In theory, I'll fucking fall apart in real life. but you know, you learn so much from just watching and observing these other people. My other tip would be to get out there in the community and just kind of be a part of it. That's really important. We wouldn't have, and we're very small potatoes right now. I get that, but we have aspirations of being moderately sized potatoes one day. But every bit of success that we've had up to this point, we owe to the friends that we've made in the community, to the people that are behind us, to the people that subbed to our Patreon when we had 10 people and we're producing, 3-page 5e supplements once a week. Every person that we've had that's joined our Discord, that retweets us, that comments, this just shows interest. All those have been things that we've been able to learn from, that we've been able to carry forward with us. And we've built relationships that, sometimes there are these relationships that turn into, a partnership, and I'm on an AMA with someone or something like that, or it turns into, these are people that just really support and love the worlds that we have, or they just want to be a part of a really cool Discord community and they want to support you in that way. So getting out and actually mixing it up and living as a part of the community that you want to produce for is incredibly important, because you're gonna build bridges and you're gonna build a real community. You're gonna put yourself in it, and that's probably the most important thing, is to just really make sure you're part of that community. Coming in out of nowhere and being like, please give me money, that doesn't, no one knows who you are. If you want someone to eventually give you money, you got to kind of be a person to them before you're a person asking for money.
I think that's like awesome advice, because I think that's like that's usually the hurdle, like the mental hurdle that most people that want to get it, it's just that asking, hey, I have this really cool idea, but I'm too scared to put myself out there.
Oh, and that's the other thing too. Just fuck up fast and frequently. That's really the best thing that I could. I mean, when I look at our original stuff that we produced now, I go, oh fuck. I'm like, man, today Jess is not very proud of Jess, but I learned from it, and that's the best way to produce content that we're all taking baby steps. The things that I'm making right now that I'm like, this is fucking amazing, this is rad, this is gonna blow your mind. 3 years from now, I'm going to be looking back at it and go, what the fuck were you thinking? You know what I mean? It's progress. It's growth.
That saying you just said, that's a new t-shirt.
Yeah, fuck up fast and frequently.
Fuck up fast and frequently. We need to put that, we're going to put that on the Cypher Unlimited shirt, and the Underground Oracle. We'll put that right in the middle.
I will wear that every fucking day. No joke. You send me the link when that shit hits. But it's true. I learned that from other people in the community. I want to say Oliver Darkshire or something. I want to say he was he created 5e stuff for a while. And he was basically like, I learned more from every terrible failure that I put out there than I did from anything else. And if you wait for the perfection that you're seeing in the books that you're buying, you're going to be waiting for a while, because you're still honing your skills. And the best way to do that is to keep producing. So, start producing stuff for free, or, start a Patreon. And for me personally, the best thing that I could have done was start that Patreon, because I need to have that accountability, where I'm like, oh no, like even when we only had like 2 people giving us $3 a month, I was like, those people are paying me to get this shit done. I have to get this shit done. You know what I mean? And that's what it took for me, but it's not what it takes for everybody. But the best advice is just to get out there and start doing it, and don't apologize. People might be haters, especially depending on whichever community that you're being in. you know, but you're learning. And I think most people are cool enough to see that, especially if you're really open about it, you know? So just put it out there and just keep failing forward. I mean, it does work.
We got to say it in New York, if you don't have any haters, you ain't doing it right.
Boom.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Dean?
So what advice can you give anyone wanting to start designing games as well? You know, and do you have any designers you admire that you'd like to shout out?
Oh man, there's so many designers that I admire. I mean, everybody at Monica Games. I just was telling Shanna, I absolutely fucking adore everything that she did. Absolutely. The whole thing. I admire a lot of designers, so it's hard for me to pick out, you know, just one. And honestly, I probably learned more from people that a lot of people here have never actually heard about, or at least aren't popular. You know what I mean? Like, these are people who are in the community, mixing it up, creating amazing stuff, and they just don't have the reach that other people do, or they don't have the connections that other people do, you know? So there's a world of amazing materials out there. And if you want to start creating them, then read these materials, absorb these materials. If you hate something, find out why you don't like that. Why do I not like this thing? You know what I mean? Is it what about it don't I like? What about it do I like? What can I take with me? Every time you're reading a game, you're playing a game, every time you're watching someone react to a game, you're reading a conversation online of people talking about a game, these are all lessons that you can take away and that you can put in your toolbox and you can use. You can say, I'm not going to fucking make that mistake when I make my game, or I'm absolutely going to do that when I make my game. And it's not plagiarism. It's learning from the people that, you know, are out there doing it. And then, you know, taking those lessons back with you. That's the best advice that I could give about if you want to become a creator. Study what other people are already producing. Study the things that you love. Don't just read it as a fan. Read it as a creator. Look at that and go, what about these mechanics do I like? What's my favorite part about this? What's my favorite part about this setting? What really does this for me? What's my least favorite part? Why don't I like it? Why don't these people like it? Take those lessons and apply them to what you're doing. And then buck up fast and frequently. Just keep making your own stuff and get it out there. And then listen too, because it fucking hurts to hear people slam on your stuff or criticize your stuff. But and then there's a stark difference between helpful criticism and hateful criticism. And you can normally tell. And sometimes helpful criticism still hurts. You're like, fuck, I thought this was awesome. And I hate that someone doesn't immediately think this is awesome. But that's okay. You take that and you go, okay, I'm going to lick my wounds for a minute. And then I'm going to look and see, is there actually something from this that I can take and I can learn? And then next time when I put something out, I'm not getting that same criticism. That's off the table. Boom. I don't have to worry about that one anymore. So that's honestly the best advice that I could give on that one.
You know what, Jess? I have to pay you a massive compliment, because you throw these gems of wisdom out there in such a accessible manner for so many people. You know, and it's genuine, and you know, and we know it's real. So I just wanted to tell you that's awesome. Keep it up. You know, I'm gonna start calling you the inner city oracle or something. You know.
I appreciate that.
Knocking it out the park. I love your answers.
Your guys did a ton of 5e stuff. Have you ever thought about doing any of that conversions to Cypher System? Because you know, MCG converted, and Sean K. Reynolds, if anyone that doesn't back his Patreon, he's been converting a lot of D&D stuff to Cypher.
Yes.
Yeah, 03, 02, second edition, third edition, and 5e stuff is all being converted over on his Patreon, which I follow as well, which is great.
Yeah, I've seen that coming out as well.
Have you considered doing any of that stuff?
We have actually. Everything that we created for 5e, they were designed to be individual supplemental materials for people's existing campaigns, because we needed to have people look at us. And since we were unknown, you know, if we were just like, this is our world, jump in and play it from, you know, most people already have their own home worlds they're playing and they're not interested in converting to another world. You know what I mean? Especially from an unknown person. It's like, why do I want to play in your world when I'm playing on the Sword Coast? But what we could do was we create these kind of plug and play supplements that we could use that still had a lot of our lore in from our fantasy setting. And we could put in notes that say, you know, in, the world of Quasaloth, one of the settings of Underground Oracle Publishing, this is where this would be located or whatever, so we're putting out these seeds and we're tying all this lore together in these individual supplements and stuff. But we put them out. Right now, we have plans to put out a full fantasy setting, and high fantasy, not weird fantasy like Harrow, a little while down the line. And you'll see a lot of these locations and people and things like that crop back up in there. In the meantime, we do have plans to start converting some of them and releasing them via like our Patreon or something like that, but they won't see wide public release probably until those core settings that they fit into are released. And then they'll be released kind of either as a part of that core setting or as like a supplementary material for that, because our plans are, we have the Harrow core book coming out, but we've been working on this thing for 15 years. Clearly there's a lot more Harrow than is going to fit in the first fucking core book. So we're going to release splat books that will enhance Harrow. We're going to release splat books that are going to enhance all the settings that we release. So a lot of that 5e material you'll see make reappearances in those splat books. So
before
Nice.
he asks his last question, anyone in chat, this is the last chance you get to put a question in chat for Jess. We already have a lot, but if you have any more questions, please just put it in chat and preface it with the word question so Al will know. Thanks, guys.
All right. So, last question. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the audience about Harrow, the Blighted Plane, that we may have missed in our questioning? And what can we look forward to further from the Underground Oracle Publishing?
There's so much about Harrow. I would be doing it a disservice if I tried to cram it all right now into a few minutes. But what we did do is we have released a audio drama of like an introduction to Harrow that's like 6 minutes long, that kind of tells you how the world fell and why it's in the position that it's in right now. It's done by Joel Rigetti of Speaking Stone Studio. He had an amazing story podcast out a while ago. And we've partnered up with him on this to kind of tell the origins of Harrow. And then that also leads into a 3-episode mini-series that kind of shows the world of Harrow from an outsider's perspective. So it introduces you to the main city of the Mound and some of the environment and stuff. It's very, very cool. If you go to the front page of the Kickstarter, that podcast is right there. So you can just click on it and listen. And it's just gorgeous. I definitely advise you all to go do that and maybe pledge while you're there.
That work. Don't tell my boss, but it was freaking awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Joel has a killer voice. He did a great job. The smartest thing that that Keith suggested for this podcast thing was to get Joel on board. In case you didn't know, we do, if you want access to any of our settings that are coming up, because we do, if you look at our publication schedule on our Patreon, we kind of do these setting focuses in our different publishing cycles. So this one has been Harrow, the Blighted Plane. Our patrons have had access to a growing quick start of Harrow, including, shorts, adventures, things like that for the last few months. We'll be doing the exact same thing with the next setting when it comes out, which will be in May, when our patrons will first get their first previews of that. It is high adventure science fiction without spoiling anything else. That's kind of the theme of it. And for as little as $3, you will have access to that quick start. So it's a pretty awesome deal. And that quick start grows through the entire production cycle with new creatures, new foci, new ciphers, etc., all that jazz. So, and all that Patreon support goes directly into producing our supplements. So doing the art, doing the, hiring Chris Hopper for our layout, things like that. So that's very, very helpful. So that's basically all I got on my end.
Awesome. Well,
survived the line of questioning.
Thank you.
And now we got questions coming from the audience. And we're gonna just run through those real quick, and then
if you don't mind, we have a couple of questions to ask from the chat. Yeah,
we had a few. So we'll start off with Kethup, one of our regulars out there. He's awesome. He said, "I've been meaning to ask you, where did the name Underground Oracle come from?"
Underground Oracle was actually that was Keith's name. Keith had that name booting around for quite a while. It was kind of an amalgam of like a few different things that he had been kicking around since he was like 14 years old. So when we were looking for good publishing names, that was one of the ones that like he was like, how about this? And it kind of just hit me like a bolt of lightning. I was like, yes, definitely that, and since he'd been carrying it with him since he was like 14, it was just absolutely perfect. So Underground Oracle Publishing. And it's very evocative, and people keep asking like, oh, are we ever going to see the Underground Oracle, or who's the Underground Oracle, or where's the Underground Oracle at, in our supplements. And that might make an appearance at some point. So
Nice.
Some guy named Keith of the Underground asked.
Never heard of him.
Some tells me that you might know this person. How did Harrow fall, Jess?
Okay. Well, I was going to let people listen to the introductory podcast because it is amazing. But essentially there was a species of individuals called the Kataria, and they're these very beautiful, charming people. But they sort of felt the need to control every aspect of the world around them. And so they did it. And so they cultivated this world into like this lush garden that was just basically this picturesque utopia of their own making. And then they kind of turned their eye to the peoples that lived there as well. And, they kind of fancied themselves to be these benevolent gods who they were the only ones who could bring the peoples of Harrow to their full potential. And that meant, utilizing these artifacts they had control of and their inherent transmutation magics abilities. And so they started altering all the people of Harrow and the creatures of Harrow. So when you run into the species of Harrow, you might see someone that looks like there's a gnome is one of the 5 species that we have, but it's different from your traditional fantasy gnome because these have been altered. And
why do you say that? Because Keith also asked, what are the different 5 species?
Oh my gosh. So, the 5 species of Harrow are humans, Hisk, which are a type of ratkin. They were native to Harrow, and they were the ones who initially kicked off the rebellion against the Kataria that inevitably led to the fall and the cataclysm that put Harrow in the position that it's in today. There's the Chrysalis. The Chrysalis were they're now a recognized species, but originally they were just random groups of people that in the throes of the cataclysm were transformed into this other type of being, and they lost all memory of who they were and where they were from. And so they sort of fled from where they were at out into these oases. And they've over the 100 years, people realize that they're normal people, and they've made their places in society all over the place, but they're kind of like these inherently crystal blighted people. There's gnomes, which I talked about, kelves, which are like these very twisted versions of elves. And by twisted, what I mean is like they're mostly manipulated internally. They have these empathic abilities that, the Kataria saw within them and decided to bring forward. So there's a lot of very cool species there. But yes, the Kataria, in their hubris, wanted to control everybody. And so they started meeting some resistance among the peoples of Harrow because they didn't want to be controlled. And there were some people that were able to avoid their transmutation and their alteration tactics and start this rebellion that they had to try to quell as quickly as possible. So they used their artifacts, and they tried to channel these energies through these 3 massive crystals that used to hang in the skies of Harrow that they called the Triad, they were kind of like, they were considered to be the gateway to the gods by the peoples of Harrow. And when they tried to all basically touch these and manipulate these all at once, there was this horrible retributive effect, and the Triad broke and shattered. And that caused this massive planar upheaval and, tore open the planes, shut them back, all this horrible, crazy stuff happened. So overnight, the world was basically transformed from this lush paradise that was perfectly manicured to the Kataria specifications to this wild, world full of like a water sand and fungal oases and, all this different stuff. So the people of Harrow had to kind of quickly come to terms with this very new, very strange alien world. And then you flash forward a few hundred years, and that's where you're at.
Nice.
I love the character concepts. I'm curious to play one of them.
Yeah, like I said, we're gonna push this and hit that 30K so you can come back and run us through a game.
I will do it. That is a promise.
So Kenneth asked again another question. He said, "How's it feel when tackling large Kickstarters like this? I've been reluctant to tackle my first actual Kickstarter personally. Seems like a lot of work."
Oh, it's a fuck ton of work. Like that's something you have to, yeah. Our first Kickstarter, this is only our second Kickstarter. Our first Kickstarter was a 14-day quick starter, and it funded very quickly and kept climbing. And it was still, I was like, this is nothing will ever be more stressful than this moment. And we had the book. I mean, it was also all previously released materials, and we had the layout. We had the book was finished before the Kickstarter was done in that 14 days, basically. Like we had it ready to go for people. So there was no production worries or anything, and it was still stressful because it's just constant hustle in one way or another. You're constantly trying to get the word out there on it. And you feel kind of like you're running in sand. This big Kickstarter is 30 days instead of the 14. And we have started in a brand new system. And it's our first full setting book. So yeah, it's a lot more stressful. I'm not going to lie. But thankfully, you know, it's not just me and Keith anymore. We added Kayla to the team. And we have a wonderful, you know, crew of artists and things that we're working with. So that makes things easier. They're all very responsive, you know, but, you know, there's always hiccups, and there's always days where you're like, oh, we crawled up $20 today. And you're like, oh God, why did I start doing this? But then, you know, the next day you're fine. You pick yourself back up, you know, so there's a lot of up and downs, but I'm not going to lie. It is incredibly stressful, you know, and I don't know. I would love to be big enough that one day I don't have to worry about all that stress. But you know, when you're doing it yourself, when it's kind of a grassroots thing, it's hard. But so far it's been a very rewarding process, and I'm incredibly excited to get the book out. So even the amount of stress that I've had up to this point, if I went back, I wouldn't be like, I'm not going to do that. I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm already thinking about doing it again. I know I'm going to do it again. So it's, you know, it's not so hard that I would say avoid it. I would say maybe get your feet wet a little bit first with something smaller that you're comfortable with, because it also proves to people that you can succeed in a Kickstarter, and that does matter to a lot of people. I don't have the exact statistics with me, but you can do like a Google search, like number of projects funded versus number of projects that fail to fund. So I would just be kind of, maybe if you've got this really awesome big idea, I would maybe table it and put something smaller and more manageable out, just so that you can learn all those lessons and make all those mistakes that you're going to make, because it's inevitable in a smaller, more controlled environment where there's less at risk. So that would be my advice to that, is just start with something small so that you learn the process, because there is no better like I read, and I still got my ass kicked the first time I ran a Kickstarter, because there was so much that you don't experience until you run it. So yeah, I would just say, take your big Kickstarter and make that your second Kickstarter, or your third if you're comfortable, and run a smaller, more manageable Kickstarter first, to make sure that you know that you can do it, and so that when you do put your big guy out there, people are like, oh, they've already done one Kickstarter successfully. I don't mind taking a risk on this one, because they clearly can deliver, and that goes a long way.
Kayla Express asks, how many character options are in this setting? I'm assuming descriptors and foci.
Oh yeah, there's the 5 species, which we went the way where you get a species and a descriptor, so they're not two different things. So there's the 5 species. We have 12 descriptors, but there will be more in there, because those are 12 SRD descriptors, and then we have our own original descriptors that will be added in. So like you can be Blightborn, which is a descriptor that makes you a mutant, basically. So you've got these crystal blight manifestations that you're able to fuck around with, which is super cool. Or you might, be from one of the 4 nations, and that gives you a different descriptor or something. Over 20 foci. Most of those are SRD foci that have been tailored to fit within the plane. So we change the lore, we change the abilities to make sure that it feels like it belongs in the setting. And then there's also some originals. And there's 3 types. The 3 types are the Shrieker, which is your warrior type, and there's some cool abilities that you get from them, but they're primarily your warrior type. There's your Blight Slinger. Blight Slingers in this setting are, think less wizard and think more psionicist, almost like the magic that's in Harrow is not the kind of, it's all from this crystal blight energy that rolls through the plane. and it's not something that you can like kind of read from a book. It's something that you almost have to like tactily like pull from the air around you and utilize. So that's what blight slingers do. They're the people that are able to manipulate those energies and either like heal people or instill lingering blight in someone, so it like has these gnarly effects, or do all this different really cool shit. And they're kind of like feared and respected depending, so it's a cool character option. And then there's the rovers. The rovers are the explorers of the plane. They're the ones that you can go out, and you can be that adventurous character that's kind of like the jack of all trades type. The whole of Harrow is like you as the player most likely are taking the position of gatherers, which gatherers are incredibly important to the people of the four nations. And those are the people that go out and they risk their lives in the wilds to either bring back like important resources, or you might be going out to gain your own like power and glory or whatever, but they're all referred to as gatherers basically. And it's rovers are kind of like your peak gatherer. Like when people think of gatherer, they think of that character type. But yeah, there's a lot of options together. You can do a lot of really cool stuff.
Sounds awesome. Dean?
Yep, sounds great. So that being said, let's see, where'd it go? Oh, did you take any inspiration? This is from Billy York Fells. He said, did you take any inspiration from Final Fantasy 12 Nam Yimsa Sansi?
I'm not gonna lie, I am super fucking not cool, and I haven't played a Final Fantasy past like Final Fantasy 7. So so I did not. It's gonna sound weird. I don't even know if there's anyone out there that's old enough to have played this game, but like I played Wild Arms 3 when I was a kid, and it is like this like desert punk, like Weird West kind of setting. And I really loved all the sand and stuff that was in that. So when I was originally designing the sand sea, a lot of that kind of went in there. But it was also because I love the idea of playing this like Treasure Planet. To me was fucking amazing because it was like this. It was a nautical adventure, but in this very weird setting. And I really love that. So we wanted to be able to have all that cool nautical flair and the ship-to-ship battles and all this stuff, but in kind of an untraditional setting. And the water sands really, really fit that one. But I've had a few people ask me about the Final Fantasy thing, and I feel like such a tool because I'm like, I don't know. I feel like a mammoth. Like, I don't, I don't know. The Final Fantasy kids, I played with Cloud, so.
Before we go to a rapid fire question, there was a Jason C. Shadowmane, who's another great friend of our asked the question. Hi, Jess. When writing adventures, do you include GMIs in the running text in the encounters? And do you look at them as suggestions or strong suggestions?
So, and this is one of my fucking favorite things about, I love the layout of the Monte Cook genre books and stuff, how they have like the margin notes and things in there. I thought that was fucking genius when I first saw that. Love it. But we do include GM intrusions in our adventure and stuff. And there are suggestions in case you want to mix it up. Anything that I feel that I think is important to the story, I'm probably going to leave outside of that margin. I'm going to put right in the text. You know what I mean? So there are those instances where you might run into something that's in the text than explicit. If it's in the margins and it's a GM intrusion, I take the GM intrusions as being a fully optional thing. And I think that's cool because that also means it gives you the freedom to be absolutely fucking wild with them too, where it's like, this might fuck the scenario entirely up, but if the GM wants to go that way, he has the option to do that, or she has the option to do that. So, I mean, to me, the GM intrusions are like really fun suggestions for things to get wild and wacky. And if it's something that, needs to be there, then I kind of call it out outside of those margins.
I mean, we've been saying for years that GMIs are the whiteout of Monte Cook games, because if the players ever take you off the rails to the point where you don't know what to do, you could just put the whiteout out and GMI, you're back over here. This is where we need to be.
And they never know, they never know.
All right, so if we didn't ask some of the questions that were here in chat, we sort of felt like we're asked already. So we're gonna move on to, this is the rapid fire question. Now we're getting serious.
Uh-oh.
Here's where we dig deep into your soul, right? We pull out your essence. Nice. We stretch it on the table for the whole world to see. This is the famous Cypher Unlimited rapid fire question. right? And
That's fucking epic.
you
Oh,
can ask
yeah.
the first question since Al's not here.
It's one of the most epic things you're going to experience. So the first
ready.
rapid fire question of the night is player or GM?
Player all the way.
Who punches or TPK?
TPK, if it's warranted, TPK.
Nice.
Online or in-person gaming?
In person.
Yeah, we found that out earlier. Announce the difficulty number or keep it a secret?
It's the way I've always played. Announce the difficulty number. I like to give them I like to let them know what they're shooting for.
Nice.
All right. Salty or sweet snacks at the gaming table?
Salty. I'm a savory gal all the way, so I'm just stuffing my mouth with real food most of the time. Actually, it's not even chips; it's like ham sandwiches and shit.
I'll say woman
Yeah,
that's
ham
around her.
sandwich at the gaming table is freaking sweet.
I like to take care with a
RP
sub.
or combat?
RP.
Nice.
PDFs or physical books?
Physical books, you just can't beat them. Like I love to have both, honestly. But a physical book, just pouring through that one, I do it too much to ignore that.
Pen and paper notes or digital notes?
Pen and paper notes.
Oh, nice.
Pre-written adventures or original content?
Original content. But you guys out there should instead buy my stuff.
You know, we've had at least 30 or 40 game designers on our show through the years, and I don't think we've ever had anyone answer pre-written adventures. But you're a game designer. Your whole life is original content.
So exactly, you're making it for those. And see, when you say that, that just reinforces your credibility.
Good. I like that. I'm gonna use that from now on.
You survived the world famous rapid fire question.
It was tough. It was tough.
All right. So, I mean, it's been great having you here, Jess.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I have enjoyed this. I know Anthony enjoyed it. I know the audience enjoyed it. Please come back. Please continue the great work. Everything, we wish you all the success out there. Thank you for making more Cypher content because we eat it all up. We, if you know anything about the CU, we love all things Cypher. So that means we love you too. So welcome
That's
to
awesome.
the Cypher Unlimited. Welcome to the community. And wow.
I'm going to tell you, it's been a secret goal of mine. I don't want to sound like too much of a fangirl, but it's been a secret goal of mine since we turned over because I get to see all those cool channels on the side, for the different third party like settings and stuff. I'm like, we're going to get one of ours there when the book gets out.
We could definitely make that happen.
Easy. Yep, it'll happen.
But you do know I have to ping you to let you know that.
Ping me all the time. I'm very pro ping. Don't worry about it.
Please go to the Kickstarter. Al, could you repost it? Could you repost it in chat again? Go to the Kickstarter. I know there's 23 days left, but if you want to be a producer like me, right? Go to the Kickstarter, check it out. Watch the videos. Please, Keith and Jess are both awesome. Like, please support them. We need to support. If you want more Cypher stuff, you got to support the content creators because the more Kickstarters that are successful, the more products we're going to get, the more cool stuff, the more diversity we're going to get in the Cypher system. And I'm selfish. I'm for all that. So please go support them. Not only are they great people, they're producing a great product. And, that's all you can ask for.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. And we're going to work on the design of that shirt too. That, because that's an awesome saying.
I will wear that when I am GMing the 30K game for you guys.
Awesome. We'll make that happen. And if you like us and you like what we do, join the Cypher Unlimited Discord server for all things Money Cook Games. We got 5,000 members on Discord talking about, chatting, playing games, posting games, promoting games, anything MCG related, that's your place for you. But if Discord is not for you, join our Facebook group. It's not as big as our Discord, but there's still great conversations being had there. Our videos are always free, but you could give us a little donation on Ko-fi. It helps us out with little things like Zoom costs. Or go to our online store and pick up some cool Cypher Unlimited merch like the hat or the shirt Dean got on, or please give us a subscription here on Twitch, or go to our YouTube channel, like, share, and subscribe there. We're trying to get our counts up at both those platforms. It'll be greatly appreciated. And last but not least, we love you guys.
You know, and then, you know, epic CU fashion. We will see you later.
Bye, guys.